Hey there everybody, how we all doing? Today I wanted to make a video talking about 10 of my most wanted new features that I want to see included in something like Titanfall 2. These are things that I don't think are really going to be included ever in Titanfall 1, but definitely have the potential to make it into number 2, and I think could be some great selling points for the game and just some really fun kind of stuff overall to have. We're not going to be getting into balance discussion or anything like that. It's pretty much all just going to be, just a feature discussion. By the way, my voice is a little awkward just because I'm sick right now, so apologies for that, but we're working through it. So without much further ado, guys, let's get started. So first up, demo recording. And by the way, these are not in any particular order. So demo recording, if you don't know what that is, if you ever played Halo, it's basically like the theater mode from Halo. If you've ever played something like Counter-Strike, you could record demos in that. Pretty much in any Source Engine game, you can record demos. So what they do is they basically record the actions, like the raw inputs of every single player in a game. And it logs all of those and puts them into one file that you can then download and play back. And you can basically have a bunch of AI come in and execute all those actions exactly like the players behind them executed them, and it'll replay the game. I mean, not 100% accuracy, but it's pretty close to what actually happened. And you can it just plays through the game. And you can watch it from all kinds of different perspectives, be it, from a free cam where you're flying all over the place, or watching from first person from any person's view, or third person from whatever person's view. And you can play in super speed or slow-mo or, what have you. You can do all that kind of cool stuff. So that would personally help me a lot to create cool content like montages and stuff like that, but it could also be very useful to me in my weapon guides because I could make some nice little cinematics when I'm talking about stuff like stats instead of just showing you straight kill over and over. But that's just my applications. I mean, that can be used by anyone, be it competitive teams, to look and see, and evaluate how well they're doing as a team, and watch everyone else's perspective, see who's doing what and when, and the list goes on and on. So it's useful for everybody. Definitely something that I want to see, especially with this game's roots coming from the Source Engine. I think that it wouldn't be too much of a stretch for them to make that more of a priority the second time around. Coming in at number 2 is Spectator mode, or free cam mode. It's kind of was already included in the demo recording mode, but that was kind of in a post-humorous sort of application. So what I'm talking about for this Spectator or free cam mode here is in a live game. So say you start up a private server and you do a 6 versus 6. Why can't there be a few slots for spectators, so they don't have any impact on the game? They don't actually, spawn in as a pilot or a Titan or Grunt or anything, They are just a disembodied camera that can fly around the map and and just watch the game. That would be great for esports. That's the #1 application that I know of, is guys like Warwitch TV can go in and he can commentate a tournament, and do the whole esports thing and get it live streamed to Twitch and do all that stuff and make it a really, really cool experience for both the players and the viewers. So this is something that's really important, in my opinion, to come into Titanfall 2. I know there wasn't a huge focus on the competitive scene in Titanfall 1 just because it's Respawn's first game. It's the first game they've ever made. They have to make a new IP from the ground up. You can't do everything all at once, and I understand that. So now that they've kind of got their feet in the water, they've kind of hit their stride, they know what they're doing, I'd love to see a little more competitive support in Titanfall 2, and what better way to do it than giving us a spectator mode, as well as what's going to come into the a number 4 slot, I think it was, a little bit later, so stick around for that. Coming in at number 3 is kind of an interesting little different idea that I haven't seen really anyone else asking about, but my video, my idea, deal with it. So I want to see something like score streaks, as in a la Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4. Not Call of Duty score streaks, where you get like, an AC-130 or whatever. Not that kind of score streak. I mean, in Battlefield, where you kill a bunch of enemies one after the next. You have a score number that just totals all the points from your individual actions and totals them up. And, as long as you keep doing stuff, that score keeps growing and growing and growing. So if you watch series like Battlefield Top Plays, a lot of the top plays, you see people killing 15, 20 people in a short span of time, along with doing other actions. You see that score streak increase and increase and increase, and they get 2,000, 3,000 points. They don't really mean anything whatsoever, but it's just like a visual way of kind of showing how crazy the things are that somebody is doing. So to kind of work in with that, I'd like to see, just pilot hits in general giving points. Titan hits, not kills, but just getting hits on them giving you points. Grunt hits, grunt kills giving you points. All this stuff summarizing into one little kind of number to kind of hype things up and make situations seem even cooler than they already are. Coming in at number 4, I wanted to talk about better private match options. Now, private matches in Titanfall 1 have been in beta for forever. I don't see them, truthfully, I don't really see them ever leaving the beta state anytime soon. We don't have a whole lot of changeable options in there. We have some, which is great, but not enough customization for most people. So Titanfall 2, I would definitely need to see, or I don't need to see anything, I suppose. I would definitely want to see some improvements to the private match system. I would definitely want to see more options, the ability to start solo games, the ability to, maybe even the ability to do stuff like changing flag locations, or instead of having instant returns, make it a timed return, based on a distance around the flag. If you stand in a radius over 3 seconds, you return it. Or, moving hard point locations, or changing the frequency at which mark for death targets appear, or whatever, or maybe even in Last Titan Standing, changing when halftime occurs, instead of having one spawn switch at halftime, why not have multiple spawn switches after every round? Stuff like that is definitely options that I want to see in the future, and I think it really would benefit the Titanfall community a whole lot. For number 5, I wanted to talk about generation rewards. So in Titanfall 1, it was kind of advertised that if you decide to gen up, and do the next generation and reset your level, that it was only going to give you a visual reward, like the little generation chip next to your name, and that was it. And then things changed when the Fire Nation attacked, and they decided to give everyone 70 extra burn card slots, or however many it was, if you were Gen 10. So I don't think that was the best idea. I mean, if they want to do something like that and reward generation with with an actual gameplay benefit, okay, I guess. But at least make it clear from the get-go, so people who don't want to gen up aren't pigeonholed into having wasted a lot of time sitting at Gen 1 level 50, and then they have to, spend all this time to get up to the Gen 10 level 50. It's just kind of silly in my opinion. So making that more clear from the get-go and just deciding from before the game launches, here's how it's going to go, here's how it's going to be, and just laying that out is the way that needs to happen in the future. Coming in at number 6 is an idea that is probably a little bit of a stretch, but I kind of feel like talking about it anyways. It's something that I like to call a dynamic drop-in and drop-out experience. So what I mean by this is, let's say that you're in a game and you're losing it and you have to extract in your dropship. You know how when your dropship actually extracts, it warps into space and then you're just kind of floating off in space and then it fades to black? Why not, instead of it just having fading to black, why don't you dock into, like a frigate or, a corvette or whatever kind of ship is out in space, out in orbit? Why can't you dock on that ship and then, you actually, you never have that fade to black. You go and you change your loadouts, you change your burn cards, you change all your settings, all that stuff in between games. You never leave like the first person perspective. You're always in that first person of your pilot. And maybe even if they want to do a campaign only kind of thing for this, okay, but have it be like, so you extract and then somebody comes to talk to you, like McAllen comes to give you a pep talk and said, or Bish comes to give you a pep talk, whatever, and you have like a minute between games, you set up all your stuff, and then you go to the next mission which gets selected, and they talk about you're gonna be facing a team of this many pilots, soldier, and whatever, and they show you the map, they show you the game mode, and then you drop back into the next game once the timer expires, and and what I would want to see is not having an insertion always be a dropship. It seems like every single game except for war games, you're inserting in a dropship. So I would definitely like to see more variety and stuff like this. So have a drop pod insertion, which consequently already exists in Titanfall 1 in the campaign on a Demeter mission. If you're on the IMC side, I believe. And it's just stuff like that, inserting different ways. Maybe whenever you exfiltrate from a mission, whether you win or lose, it's not always going to be a dropship. Maybe sometimes, it'll be like a big armored jeep that comes and speeds you guys away. Or maybe have more of those digital training missions, so you come in and out of a training pod, stuff like that. All that kind of stuff I think will be really, really cool and add more variety to the game. Maybe even like the same map you can insert different ways. So maybe you could run a real mission on Boneyard, where you insert via a drop pod, or you could run a simulation mission on Boneyard, just kind of, for whatever reason. I mean, you could have kind of like two versions of the same map, and you can insert via the training pod thing. So, I mean, just all kinds of ideas of ways that I think you could make it one cohesive experience, you know, and you can make it so you are an individual. You are a pilot. You know, you're not just kind of this, you know, this 3D model that gets put in and out of games and warps all over the place. It'll kind of ground you as an individual and as an important figure, I think. Maybe even if you join a game in progress, that could be like a simulation, or you drop in via a drop pod instead of a drop ship, because they're not going to dedicate a drop ship just to one pilot. Maybe they'll drop you in with a couple of grunts, or, you know, you'll just simulate in and say, okay, pilot, this is your first game, you got to warm up, or this is your first battle, you know, you got to warm up, and they put you in a training pod to insert into a mission. You know, I mean, it doesn't have any gameplay effect whatsoever, but it's just kind of, I think, would be a little different. Let's see, what's next? For number 7, non-missile Titan ordinances. I'm really sick of having only 4 choices for ordnance, and they are missiles, 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 or more missiles. I want to see something else. I've heard rumblings from somebody who's dug through the game code that there used to be an auto-targeting, like, chain gun shoulder attachment, so like you would hit your button and you like shoot a chain gun at the person or something like that. That's kind of interesting. I mean, it's not a missile, so I mean, there's that. I mean, I'm not going to talk about the balance of it because I've never played with or against it. I've also heard rumblings of an orbital strike, which kind of like turned into being just like a series of cluster missiles dropping from the sky on like a lased target or something like that. So just different kinds of ordinances that aren't just straight up missiles or rockets or whatever would definitely be very, very welcome in my opinion. For number 8 and number 9, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the map design of the game. So in Titanfall, as it stands, it seems like we're only having asymmetrical maps. I can't think of one map that is completely symmetrical. The closest thing is probably War Games. Everything else is just very asymmetrical in nature. So I don't know why we don't have a single symmetrical map in the whole game, barring kind of War Games, but it's... I don't know. I mean, I definitely want to see something like this in the future. I mean, maybe if they haven't done it in the 15 or so maps that they already have out for the game, there might be a reason that, you know, that kind of map doesn't work. But I don't really see why not from the outside. You know, maybe from the inside they have you know, their ideas of why it's not feasible, but this is definitely something I want to see them try to experiment with in the future. For number 9, I wanted to talk about better utilization of the outskirt areas of the maps. So I want you to picture, which map? Let's go for Colony, for example. You can think of the buildings out in the far corners of Colony, where they have complex interiors, you know, lower floors, upper floors, you know, and they're filled with all kinds of stuff. The same thing is true on Fracture, on Angel City, you know, the little market with the green roof on Angel City and the little strip club thing. You know, like you have all these areas and all these maps which are completely underexplored. You know, you have no reason to ever go there because they're just kind of out of the way. So I definitely want to see in the future a bigger focus put on these areas, you know, but be it by different game modes, you know, or, you know, what have you, you know. So maybe you can have different variations of hardpoint. So, you know, sometimes the hardpoint will be in the strip club, sometimes it'll be on the strip mall, sometimes the hardpoint will be in like the B building that we all know and love, sometimes it'll be in the courtyard in front of that B building. You know, just some way to enable us to play in different areas of the maps that we normally never would and stuff, and except in maybe in like Mark for Death or something where somebody goes to hide there. You know, that's about the only time you'll ever kind of see it. So definitely something I would like to see an improved focus on in the future, and it might even be something that's feasible for Titanfall 1, because Respawn does plan to keep supporting the game with new game types and stuff like that. So perhaps for some of their new game types, like I think one of them, which has been leaked kind of sort of by somebody who is like a trustworthy is the word I'm looking for, a trustworthy like leaker, is that there's going to be a hack the panel game mode, you know, where there's going to be a panel and your job is to go and hack it. So they could put that in those kind of weird sort of areas maybe. I mean, just a thought, just, you know, just kind of to spice things up a bit, I suppose. And then kind of sort of building off that is going to be number 10. I want to see more game types focusing on pilot mobility and team play. Currently, we have Hardpoint, which is not very pilot mobility centric whatsoever. I mean, you know, getting from point A to point B or B to C or A to C as quick as possible is definitely a factor of it, but it's not focused on constant mobility. It's focused on, you know, rushing to get to one point as fast as you can and then sitting there and doing nothing. So, the same, I mean, basically, the game types that I really like the most end up being CTF and Mark for Death, because they encourage movement for most players. I mean, definitely you're going to have some defensive players all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. But overall, the movement within those game modes is going to be very pronounced. Everyone's going to be doing it all the time. So I would like to see some new kind of game modes that really focus on that. The hack the panel thing, which I was just talking about, I am very, very, very firmly not looking forward to, just because it encourages you to go somewhere and then hold still. And that's, I don't know, I don't want to do that. It doesn't seem fun to me. So something like an idea that I've had and I've shared many times, and I think, excuse me, that a lot of people from the Titanfall community would like to see is something like Oddball from Halo. So you have a ball that spawns in the middle of the map. And it might not spawn right away. You know, it might spawn in a random location after the first 30 seconds or something. So everyone has some time to get into the map, you know, set up positions, you know, and do whatever they got to do. And then everyone's on a level playing field when that ball starts. But basically, what it would be is you pick up the ball. And when you pick it up, you put away all your other weapons. You only carry the ball in your hands, so you can't shoot anything. You only have your melee attack. Can't throw grenades, anything like that. It's just melee only. And your goal, maybe they could give you a speed boost or something, or like a permanent stim while you're holding it, just so you're not so kind of like out there and full of suckage. But the goal would be to hold the ball and to run and to move and move and move and move. So it'd be kind of similar to Mark for Death, except you are actually actively picking up the thing that scores you points. And so instead of just trying to run to not give a point to the enemy team, you want to hold the ball for as long as possible, and you score points based on the time at which you're holding the ball. In addition, they could do stuff like adding passing, like they did in Halo 4, so you could pass the oddball, and stuff like that. So it's all really, really focused on team play. You see a lot of like competitive Halo players playing a lot of oddball. There's a good reason for that, because it's a really, really interesting and cool game mode. It focuses on defensive team play and offensive team play, and high mobility no matter what. You know, if you're going to be camping in a building, well, the explosives in Titanfall are so friggin' OP that ain't going to work. You're getting blown up. You got to keep moving, you know, real fast. You got to go fast. So something I definitely want to see, something that I really think could improve both Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2. I'm not sure how likely we are to see something like this in Titanfall 1, but I really, really, really would love to see this in Titanfall 2. Absolutely. Anyways, guys, that's about all I've got for you today. Thank you all for watching, sticking with me for another super long episode. I've had a lot of positive feedback. Like, people have been liking these longer videos a whole lot. They really enjoyed them, so I'm definitely going to try and keep making these for you guys if that's what you really want to see. So anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any other kind of cool ideas or stuff that you want to share, please leave them down in the comments section below. I'd love to see them, and I'd love to discuss them with you once you do decide to post them. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time. Take care.